Americans' wallets getting grilled this Memorial Day weekend. Prices spiking the past year on just about everything you're putting in your grocery cart and on the grill. Even the propane to fire up the grill is way up. And cranking up the AC is going to cost you too. Heck, even the happiest place on earth becoming the most expensive place on earth. And that pain at the pump is an even bigger pain in the gas. So how bad is this going to get? Hi, everyone. I'm Tracy Burns in for Brenda Butner, and this is Bulls and Bears. The Bulls and Bears this week, Gary B. Smith, Jonas Max Ferris, and John Layfield, along with Gary Kaltbaum and David Mercer. Welcome, all of you. All right, Gary K. The government, though, still saying we don't have an inflation problem, but yet we got all these price spikes. What's going on?
Well, the government has drivers putting in their gas and butlers buying their food, so they don't know what's going on in the real world. And you got to realize the government over the last 30 years has changed the calculation on inflation every time for it to be lower. Bottom line is we all know everything's up in price. You name it, whether it's your health insurance or your food or your gas, and it's only going to get worse right now. Even the Department of Agriculture came out in the last day and said, look for sticker shock when buying your food. Gee, Mr. Agriculture Department, thanks for the news.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, John Layfield, you know it's there. We all know it's there. Call it what you want. Who cares if you call it inflation? Prices are going up and our wages are not.
Yeah, Gary is right. These Congress guys are clueless. I don't think that's a news flash to anybody out there. But look, beef prices are up 22% year over year. Milk prices up 36%. That's wholesale prices. So the retail stores are eating those prices. Sooner or later, that's going to manifest itself into the economy. And that is going to hurt your middle class and lower income people specifically. Gas prices are at an average that is historically very high. So you are seeing inflation. Wage growth is stagnant right now, so it is actually worse than what it looks like. Even whiskey is up 2.6%. If they get to beer, we got a real problem.
Don't be raising the prices on the red wine I'm going to have tonight either. David, though, you seem to think it's not an inflation issue. How come?
Well, I see it as prices increasing, as everyone sees that, but I don't think we have warnings of inflation. And I think it speaks to the strength of the economy. We have at least half the states, if not more, at near full employment or under 6% unemployment. And I think that shows a little demand coming in, and with that you got some price hikes. And I think that speaks well of the economy. I do think there is a problem in that wages aren't keeping up with prices, and we need to think about raising the minimum wage, which states are beginning to do, and the federal government needs to get on board on doing that.
But I don't know, Jonas. Raising the minimum wage is not going to help the fact that car rental prices are up 5%. Amusement park admissions are up. Movie theater tickets. Heck, you can't take your kid to a ball game these days. Minimum wage has nothing to do with that.
Well, it does have something to do with it in the sense that it would actually raise prices even more because it's a labor cost. But that's a separate issue. I'm not against necessarily doing it, but that would be the effect of it. Look, you just saw that graphic you showed, which is that guy torching with all that propane, all that meat. Like, the consumer now can afford to buy more meat and waste propane like that. We're using more energy and these prices are sticky. And that was the goal. The Federal Reserve wanted to generate 2% inflation. They're now just getting up to that level because people don't back off when the wholesalers raise prices, whether they're raising the business and the business to the consumer. If that sticks, it means the economy is strong. Ideally, wages would grow a little faster. They're growing, but not as fast as some of these prices are going up. But that's like the last piece of the puzzle. It should catch up at the end, and then everything will be fine.
Yeah, but Gary B., does that argument hold? We're raising prices on the things that we need. It's unfair. I need gas in my car to go to work, so I have no choice but to pay for it.
Well, there's a couple things. I want to go back to the beginning. And Gary Kaltbaum, I love him to death, but he's kind of in this conspiracy camp. Like, the government is lying. Look, you know I'm no fan of the government. And I think they're inept, from the VA to Social Security, et cetera, et cetera. On the other hand, I don't think the Bureau of Labor Statistics people that put together these numbers, they have this black helicopter thing, like they're going to, oh my gosh, we're going to lie and get it to be down. Now, on the flip side, David Mercer, how you could spin this to say it's because the economy is so strong is just mind-boggling. My gosh, the real unemployment
the economy is strengthening, and we are getting employment up and unemployment
stop
down.
already. You're crazy. You're talking crazy talk. All right. Look, I think what's happening here. The thing that's happening here is, look, overall, I do agree with the government numbers. We have about 2% inflation because we don't spend our entire budget on food and gas. But I will say this. For those that don't remember, back in the 70s when we really did have hyperinflation, we've had a lot of, my gosh, 30, 40 years of calmness. So the recent spikes we've seen, I've even seen it go into the Safeway and getting my gas, pumping my own gas. Yes, I do that. I have seen the prices spike. And to me, it looks like, in the face of all that calmness, prices really have spiked. I think we're on the cusp of some real serious inflation. But it hasn't spread to other sectors, though.
Gary Kay, I got to let you defend yourself here, because does it even matter? All right, so maybe they are getting it right in the government, but is the equation wrong? I mean, we're still using the same equation to calculate this stuff. Things have changed. Heck, I think they should put rec fees and sports equipment in the inflation calculation.
Look, government has these statistics, and it is a known fact, not an opinion, that they have changed their calculation, hold on, for the last 30 years. And every time they've changed their calculation on inflation, it's to make it look lower. But I got to add one other thing. I call it the double whammy.
Why would they do that, though? What would be the reason for doing that?
To make things look better. Government likes making themselves look better, but I got to add the double whammy in here. You have inflation and everything going up. The only thing that has deflation, and that's the money market rates that the Fed is holding down, so the savers can't make a buck. So everything they're paying for is going up, and when they try to make a buck off their dollars, they can't make a penny.
All right, Jonas, speaking of making himself look better, that background in Miami makes you look so fantastic. I love you. What about the consumer, though, at the end of the day? I mean, is it going to get worse for them? If prices keep going up and wages don't, that has to hurt.
It hurts if it gets out of control. We get way above 2% and wages don't go along for the ride. But we've seen the Federal Reserve kind of back out because they kind of know they're running out. This game's over and prices are picking up, and they have to now stop just creating money out of thin air. So we probably won't get 3%, 4%, and 5% overall increases in prices year over year. But to David Mercer's point, it's not like prices going down are the sign of a healthy economy. That's what happens in a depression or a deep recession. So if you don't see prices go up every year, something's wrong. I'm not saying it's great to have the 70s where prices are going up 8, 10, 11% a year, but you want 2%, 3% even. It's frustrating, but if you're on a fixed income, the government does index your Social Security, which is one conspiracy theory as to why they want to keep it artificially low. I will say there are independent price things where they look at millions of prices on the internet. Those mimic the CPR very well. It's got nothing to do with government black helicopter price fixing.
John, I know you're not a conspiratorialist, but it's hard to feel like these numbers don't reflect the true state of how we're all doing.
Yeah, look, and the main thing is to understand the different economies in our country. There are parts of the economy that are doing very strong. There's under 3% unemployment in North Dakota. In West Texas, you can't find a home. You can't find a place to stay. You don't need a minimum wage there because everybody's getting paid a lot of money. That's because of fracking and horizontal drilling specifically. That's all it boils down to. But you look in places like California, the poverty rate has doubled in the last 7 years to 24%. That is where you see the country hurting. That's where you see the highest, the lowest labor force participation rate since 1978. Our country has structural high unemployment, and while you have pockets that are very prosperous, from West Texas all the way to North Dakota, you have both sides of that corridor that's very prosperous that are hurting tremendously, and that's where inflation really kicks in and hurts the middle class and lower income people.
Got to give John the last word. Thank you, guys.